Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. So we're going to kick off this evening with our Vice President of Events candidates. We'll go in alphabetical order, which means that it will be Niamh, Carr first and then Donal, MacAuley. So without any further ado, Niamh, would you like to give a short speech as to why you think you are the best candidate for the Vice President of Events next year?
I would love to give you a short speech. I hope you're all doing really well. So my name is Niamh and I'm running for Events VP. And I think I'd be really, really great for this position because I'm friendly, approachable, and I love to have a laugh. I'm also organised and I love planning events. I enjoy being creative and looking for new things to bring to the table. In terms of what I want to do as Events VP, I would want to expand the events the SU puts on, and working closely with the Societies Officer, I want to create new societies and places where everyone can relax and come together. I'd want to also work closely with the VP of Welfare and the Diversity Officer in helping create a place where students know that they can come for support or whatever they need. At the end of the day, it's not actually all about partying and having fun. Navigating uni life is really hard, what I've experienced of it, I found it difficult. And if the SU can offer events or societies or support groups or anything that will make life just that little bit easier, I think we can make a safer and more encouraging environment where we can all grow and thrive. At the end of the day, the SU are representatives of the student body, so I'd want to create events that you'd want to go to. I want to create an events forum where students can submit ideas and things they want to see. You're the ones attending them, and I want to create the fun, exciting experiences that you can look back on. I really personally enjoyed events like the boat party, silent discos, Oktoberfests. So I'd want to continue them bigger and better, and I'd also want to look into opening the SU bar much more regularly. I also want to introduce new events like bongos bingo, escape rooms, karaoke nights, pub crawls, theme nights at the SU. And this morning actually I had an idea of a freshers event where you all come dressed as someone famous or something famous from your hometown. Like, for example, as I'm from Newcastle, I'd come at the Tyne Bridge or Alan Shearer or Sting or someone. And I think that would be a really fun idea to because like a few months down the line you could be like, oh, you're so and so, you were dressed up and you're from this place. But yeah, thank you for listening, and vote for Niamh.
Thank you so much, Niamh. That was great. Donal, now over to you for your speech.
Woo! Oh, okay. So firstly, I have something prepared, but I just wanted to welcome you all to the bar upstairs, which was the honorary name of my flat whenever bars closed last year. Now, onto my speech. Just a wee quote. Jojo Siwa once said that being unique is better than being normal. And I believe at Trinity Laban that we are all unique and passionate and determined and inspired. And I think it's only right that this next academic year we turn Greenwich Mean Time into Greenwich Keen Time. Now, I want you to give me a cheer if you like to save money. Okay, oh my God, I can't hear myself think, guys. But yeah, if you voted for me, I would give you the opportunity to save money and save the world. And by doing that all whilst having a cheeky beverage, as I aim to put in place to reduce the amount of single-use plastic cups used at TLSU events. And giving those of you who wish to use a reusable cup a set discount off of your drinks. And to avoid any confusion regarding measurements and things, I would look about having a branded TLSU beaker that's available online or at TLSU events or in your welcome pack at freshers. So that's a win for the world and a win for your wallet. Now, another thing then is how many times have you watched a TV show or a movie or had no one to celebrate it with? I plan on creating events throughout the year, either movie nights or TV season finales. So if you've read my manifesto, you'll see my previous example, which was the BYOB, Bring Your Own Bakes to the Great British Bake Off finale. And others might include a midweek Wednesday Mean Girls Pink Party or a Battle of the Harry Potter Houses. Or if you're feeling really daring, then a Hunger Games. like literally just the Hunger Games. Maybe not, but we'll see. And then on a more serious note, I would also, just with like the world changing and evolving, I'd work alongside student services with providing compulsory events during freshers on topics such as discrimination, diversity, equality, consent, health and well-being, just to name a few. And the attendance will be monitored at these events so that all students can go into the year knowing that each of us have been educated on global concerns. And really this will benefit the campus on a whole. And I just believe that, you know, we're entering a time where diversity is more visible than ever before. And I really aim to demonstrate this as much as possible through events by working alongside the VP of Societies and the societies themselves to showcase the array of identities and personalities within the Trinity Lab in life, and really inviting societies to host events as well as assisting them and signposting them to events inside and outside of Trinity Lab that will support and relate to them, really. And now finally, just to close, I just want to say that I may not be Jojo Siwa, but I did make Louis watch a cup of tea. And if that doesn't make you want to vote for me, then I completely respect your good taste in pop culture. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Donal. That was great. Okay, thank you to both of our candidates for VP of Events. I've got a couple of questions that I've prepared earlier, and then I'll open the floor to questions. But before I do, Will, are you here?
Yes, I am here. Hello.
Oh my God, Will, you're my hero. Do you have the questions? Are you all right to take over? I'm so sorry.
I imagine Elle said, do I want to ask the questions?
Yes, I did. Ask the questions.
Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, my internet went. What are the chances? Okay, shall I ask questions? Okay, hello everyone. Right. So this year, the SU faced a little bit of a backlash for not ensuring that our events were inclusive. And we were also accused of promoting alcoholism and of letting students get overly drunk. So I'd just like to ask you both, how will you make sure that our events are appropriate for all students? They're also culturally diverse, and students don't feel pressured to drink. Donal, can I start with you on that one?
Yeah, well, firstly, I would actually probably work on promoting or showing the promotion of events that may not be the alcohol-based events. I know one thing that always happens with freshers is like board game nights and things like that. So really, so that people see that there is a lot more going on within TLSU events than just drinks, you know, at the bar downstairs. And I think as well, showing that the events are, like, for example, with the silent disco, because I remember going to the silent disco last year, and I didn't drink at that. And although I do love a drink, showing that the events aren't just for drinking, they really are for meeting people and socializing and doing something that you may not necessarily do outside of a university life. Especially for myself coming from Ireland, like I come here and like all these events, they're like so wacky to like my countryside, like town, you know, like village. So like even a silent disco is like, oh my God, you know, so that's really, so demonstrating to people that there's more to the events than just the drink. Okay,
lovely, thank you. And I'm afraid I don't know how to pronounce your name because I missed it. Is it Niamh?
It's Niamh.
Niamh! Oh. Sorry. Hi, Niamh. Could you give us your thoughts on that, please?
Yeah. So I'd want to show through like social media and posters and really like show the that these events are for meeting people, creating friendships, creating experiences, and you don't always need to drink to do that. And I'd want to work with like the other members of the SU team are always learning more and more about how to include everyone and make everyone feel like they are included and that they're thought about, and even like doing stuff like maybe like a paint by numbers, because over lockdown I've really gotten into like paint by numbers, like making little like bracelets. I thought that could be a really cute idea where we could have like maybe like a coffee morning and do really fun like artistic stuff like that. Yeah, and I think if we publicize it well and we're not just like drink, I think people will feel a lot more relaxed and comfortable to get stuck in and get involved.
You said there something along the lines of getting people involved. Well, I have a follow-up question, Niamh, and I'll start with you this time. So how do you encourage existing Trinity Laban students to come along to an SU event, some of whom have never probably even stepped inside SU spaces? So thinking not just about freshers, but the wider student body. How do we encourage them to make use of the SU spaces and put on events for them?
I personally, I think I would focus on publicizing it on social media. I think even going up to people and like in the cafe, if they're having drinks with friends or something, well, like not drinks, but like in the cafe having food or something, and just going up and being like, hiya, have you thought about maybe do it like coming along to this, coming along to that, really get like conversations going.
It's been a bit tricky this year with COVID.
Yeah, so
but I agree.
Social distanced, of course.
Yes. And Donal, any ideas on that? How we can encourage existing students to come to more SU events?
Yeah, so currently I've noticed with most students, a lot of the time they're seeing like SU emails or bulletin emails, and a lot of people sort of just delete them as they come in. So similar to what Niamh would say, I would look about social media and especially how this posts are going out. So I feel like advertising it like sort of in the format of a meme where people will look at it and say, oh, it's a meme, and then read it and be like, oh wait, this is actually posted by the SU. Another thing, actually, I was chatting to a student yesterday, and they were saying that one thing they would like is like a team of volunteers within the SU that aren't exactly officers and aren't exactly tied to like a certain amount of time that they have to spend in SU, but what people that can just get involved and be in and around the SU bubble. So I'd also use something like that there for sort of that student word of mouth. Encouragement for people to like come along to events and stuff.
Great. Okay, one final quick fire question for me. Someone's mic is on. Ethan, I'm going to mute you. No, I can't. Thank you. Okay, one final quick fire question for you both. Donal, what experience have you got, if any, of event planning or budgeting?
Oh, it's completely out of context, but I actually have done a lot of management and like life coaching training. And within that there, I have organized a number of events and stuff, sort of conference style events, but as well, I've went out to Zambia and done like sort of missionary sort of volunteering work. And I've like helped people like organize events out there for more so like school-based events, where you're bringing people from different sides of communities within Zambia together. So events like that, I've done a lot of organizing. And then obviously the cheeky like Eurovision party or Pride event, things I got there as well.
Lovely. And Niamh, any experience event planning in the past or budgeting?
Yeah, I organised a series of farewell concerts when I left uni, when I left for uni, and I've also done like I've been quite heavily involved in the church that I grew up at, in the youth group, and I was one of the leaders there, helping with like the kids and doing like events and stuff like that. So I do know about like kind of budgeting and stuff like that. Yeah.
Thank you, that's great, Niamh. Okay, thank you both. Let's move on to Societies Officer, please. Euan, are you there? Would you unmute yourself?
I am here, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Now, Euan, would you take the floor? And you've got 3 minutes to give us your speech, your pitch.
Oh, go on then. So,
if you must.
Yeah, if you insist. If anybody doesn't know me, I'm Euan, second year trumpet student. And I will just briefly whiz through a few of my manifesto points. So my first one is I firmly believe that practice is not the be-all and end-all of our lives, which some people may disagree with, but I think a lot of us get too up ourselves about practicing and too obsessed with practicing and I have to go do this, I have to go do that. No, you don't have to go and do that. You've got to live a little. So I want to promote everything else that is involved in being a person. So particularly sports and other creative outlets and other things that we can still do together. And it has ways that we can have experiences that will then feed back into the practice room and make us feel revitalized and excited, not just bored because we've been practicing all the time. So last year I had a bit of an experience before we all got locked down again. I had a bit of an experience trying to set up a society, and I found it to be quite a long experience that can be quite bureaucratic, and there's quite a lot of steps involved. So I'd quite like to simplify that process, and also I'd like to make sure every student is aware that they are able to set up a society. So if there's something they want, they can come to me and we'll work together to set up their society, to make it a bit more realistic, rather than people sitting at home going, I wish there was somebody else who I could do this thing with. I want to make that a reality. I also would like to work with student unions of other conservatoires in London to promote some healthy competition. Particularly that might work if there's more sports societies we want to work with. But I know at the moment the only thing that Trinity wins at is being close to a Nando's. So maybe we can beat them at something else if we really try. And I'd also like to work, as a more general point, work with the events VP and the wellbeing VP to use the SU spaces for student gatherings and society meetings. And I know the bar downstairs has got renovations planned, so I'd like to assist with opening that more regularly and potentially hosting some themed nights and inviting some performers to make a space that the whole conservatoire can use together. Good. Was that about 3 minutes? Good.
Yeah, that was. Thank you, Euan. You are running unopposed. Well, that's not 100% true. Everyone that's running unopposed is also running against Ron, reopen nominations. But as you're running unopposed, I've only got one question for you, so we can speed along the proceedings a little bit. But you mentioned awareness and getting students aware of the processes for setting up a new society. Well, I want to ask you about the awareness of the societies in general and how we can increase engagement with them. Do you have any ideas how we improve this awareness?
Yes, I do. So at the minute, you can go onto the TLSU website and there's a list of societies there. But particularly this year, I know this year is a bit of an anomaly, but that's all I've heard about any societies, unless they're actually sent out in emails by the owners. Owners is the wrong word of societies. Leaders.
Presidents or committees, something like that.
Yeah, good. Glad somebody knows what they're talking about. So I think we can use social media, both the TLSU social media, and encourage the committees to use their own social media to promote, because realistically that's the only way that's the way people are going to engage with it. I think it's all well and good sending an email, but I think realistically if we want to engage people, we want to be using Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc. to engage with people. And the freshers groups a really good way to do this. And Freshers Fair, if touch wood, if we can have a Freshers Fair in September,
hopefully.
Or when we were in first year, there was about 4 stalls of Freshers that weren't to do with music. So I'd like to triple that if we can, and have things for that people are going to go to and say, well, I really enjoyed that and I want to see that and I want to go and learn more about that. I don't want people to come away going, well, I learned about the musical things, but I'm going to do that for 4 years.
Yeah, thank you, Euan. That's great. Lovely. Let's move on, please, to the position of Vice President of Welfare. And Ellie, that's you. You're up.
Hi.
Hi.
I have written a speech just because I didn't know whether I was going to be here, and I submitted the video to Will, and it was 7 minutes long. So I'm going to follow my speech as much as I can, just because I am a rambler. And yeah, anyway.
Well, Ellie, I'll give you 3 minutes starting now. There you go.
I'd love to be the SU Vice President of Welfare for lots of reasons. It's safe to say that I have had my fair share of my own mental health issues and welfare issues, and I had to defer my first year at Trinity Laban due to a relapse of my anorexia. But this has meant that I'm stronger and more resilient and determined than ever, and keen to ensure that our Trinity Laban community know how to look out for themselves, look out for each other, and how to, like, who to turn to when they are struggling. That bit's irrelevant. Sorry, I'm reading through my speech that I thought would be read out if I wasn't here. My kind of manifesto and campaign as a Vice President of Welfare have a few points. One of my points is I'd like a peer support system. So, for example, people who have obviously the various types of mental health issues, the LGBTQIA plus community, kind of people who from different ethnicities and cultural backgrounds, having support groups in that sense that people can identify with and help with their own advice. My second point is I'd like to start a kind of social, this is something I'd like to work on with events, but I'd like to do a kind of a social, but also having a welfare aspect to it, I guess. Having a kind of welfare kind of breakfast club, but also something that people after like a Saturday night out or whatever with their friends, and kind of coming in on a Saturday and having a kind of chilled breakfast with their friends. But if they need support, they need to pick up a card with a contact detail for whatever issues or whatever, or speak to someone on the SU, or be referred to someone in student services or more kind of external professionals, then that would be there. But also having live music and a kind of more chilled out for people who kind of don't want to be part of the kind of drinking, and or not even drinking, but kind of more kind of busy and that aspect of events, having like a more chilled out aspect.
Could you wrap it up, please, Ellie?
Yeah, no, I'm going, sorry. So see, yeah, I said I was a rambler. Anyway, and training for different people in terms of pronouns, LGBTQIA plus terms, and how to support people, training for people with autism and how to be allies and support them. That's basically my
Thank you, Ellie.
thing. But yeah, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I am a rambler, sorry.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a rambler. I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yes, of course.
At the moment, with the way things stand, do you think it's easy for students to access help and support when they need it at Trinity Laban?
I would say it isn't, which is kind of why I'm running for the role. I feel like I only know how to access the support because I originally didn't know how to access the support, hit rock bottom, had to defer, and it's since coming back and being like, you're coming back for this reason, we're gonna kind of throw all the options at you, is kind of how I know how to access the support. So I really want to make it more accessible and having like a more of a tiered support system so like if people need a kind of something going on, but it's not like, obviously everything's relevant to the individual person, but if something's going on and it needs to be dealt with to kind of like a peer or SU level, or whether it's a kind of student services or external professional support, kind of having the contact details and like easy accessible, this is the phone number, this is who you need to pick up and ring, rather than kind of like, here's a vague, kind of having a more set out and structured, this is who you need to speak to, kind of thing.
That's great. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank
again,
you.
You're running unopposed, so it's only just the one question for you.
Thank you.
Let's move on, please, to our candidates for Disabled Students Officer. And we will start with Clare. Are you there? If you would like to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I wasn't sure he was going first, sorry.
It's you, please, alphabetically. So, alphabetically by first name. So, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. So, I'm Clare, and I have lived all my life with various disabilities, some diagnosed, some undiagnosed. So, I understand what it's like to try and get yourself through an educational system when the support you need isn't always in place. And here at Trinity, 20% of students have a disclosed and diagnosed disability, with many more who aren't open about it. So that is a massive percentage of our community. So it's really crucial to get it right for these people, I think. The main things I would like to achieve if I was a disability officer would to be to create more spaces for open and honest discussions. This could be through social media, forums, face-to-face conversation, because every single disabled person's experience is very different, and there is no one answer to everything. So communication is going to be so key in getting the right solutions for the right people. I'd like to work on improving accessibility around our buildings, because they are notorious for being an absolute nightmare for anybody who is able-bodied. And I know this is a long-term project, so also what can we put in short-term wise so that we can help people now on a day-to-day basis instead of waiting 6 months for this to be fixed or that. And again, it's going to be different for everybody, so we need a range of options, and they need to be clear, visible and flexible. I would like to have resources available for everybody around all the buildings, because speaking as somebody who struggled to get a diagnosis, if you don't have a diagnosis, trying to get hold of resources to help you can be an absolute nightmare. So if we have them there for people to use, it means everybody has access to them, and you don't have to go through the process of trying to phone somebody to get some coloured paper or something really irritating like that. And if they're there, people are more likely to feel like they can use them, and this helps with the stigma around needing resources and support. And the final thing I'd really like to try to do is work on extra support as we transition back to in-person teaching, because I know, especially for people with learning disabilities, that is going to be a really difficult process, and I want to be able to support students as much as I can whilst they figure out how their learning journey is going to work. And this could be through continuing to record lectures for a little while, or having more one-to-one contact with lecturers or teachers. But again, it's different for everybody, so we need to have conversations about it. And finally, like I've been saying, it's different for everybody, and there is no one solution. So to find the right answers, we really need to listen to those who are struggling. And whilst I've lived with my set of disabilities, I haven't experienced everything, and that is why creating a community and a space is going to be so important, so that people who need it can access it and access things that are actually going to help instead of what we believe are going to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Fen, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Can indeed. Would you like
Excellent.
to give us your 3 minutes, please?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Fen. Some of you might know me already because I'm the LGBTQ+ officer, and I've been doing that job for 2 years now. I decided to go for a different role this year because I felt like the issues of ableism are more obvious to me than the issues facing the LGBTQ+ community. And I also felt like both roles could use a fresh set of ideas, fresh set of eyes, fresh set of ears. I've got loads that I want to do within TL, but I've only got 3 minutes and a year, hopefully. So here are my 7 main points. So first things first, the lifts. The lifts are a joke. Regular maintenance and checks need to be carried out in a way that disrupts as little as possible. And this should also be scheduled and posted in advance to further not disrupt student lifestyle and access. All of the SU spaces need to be accessible. Yesterday, I was in my wheelchair and I got stuck inside of a chairlift down to the SU, which is probably the same age as the actual building. I propose that not only do we get a new lift, but I also propose braille door signs into the SU space and office because they're everywhere else in the building and the SU space deserves that just as much. My next proposal is all resources online to be dyslexia friendly. This has been a really long-standing issue, and considering the ease with which resources can be checked and adjusted, we as a student body deserve so much better than what we're getting. My next piece has already been mentioned actually. I would like to bring in anti-ableism training for all staff, including guest staff. In 3 years at TL, I have not gone more than a term without experiencing ableism and not gone more than a month without seeing it or hearing about it. From seeing a staff member mock a student's speech pattern to being told, no one hires disabled singers whilst I was sat there in my wheelchair, we can see that training needs to be mandatory for all staff. And students don't work as hard as we work to get to where we are to be treated this way. My next one is a really simple one. Social media, all posts from TL and TLSU need to have image descriptions and or closed captions. This simple addition could really open up TL to a world of different people, and it's just so easy. It's just such an easy addition. Next up, I've got a transparency policy that I would really like to introduce. I've never seen any communication of the repercussions for ableist actions and ableist behaviour, and we as students deserve to know that we are being taken seriously and that actions have been taken. Next up, and finally,
if I could ask you to wrap it up.
Yeah, cool. Access to all parts of the course, even the external ones. After all TL spent on Blackheath halls, the hearing loops don't work and there's no step-free access to the stage. Finally, I am here to start a fight, where a fight has been needed for a really long time. I've been paying attention to TLSU, to TL for 3 years, and it's time for TL to pay attention to us. Students of TL deserve far better than what we're getting. Yeah, so a vote for Fen is a vote for a more accessible Trinity Laban.
Thank you, Fen. Right, I have a question for you both. So Trinity Laban have an equality and diversity agreement document, and in it they have pledged to tackle the attainment gap that disabled students face. So Fen, how would you raise awareness of this, and do you have any solutions in mind to bridging the attainment gap?
Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
So first of all, it would hugely depend on which students were struggling, because if it is simply an issue of physical access, that would be a matter for room bookings, and we would have to work a lot with that. If it was an issue more to do with learning disorders, that would be an issue of training to make sure that the staff everywhere know how to help out their students. And if it was an issue of another form of disability like blindness or deafness, this would be something that we would have to work out by actually speaking to the students and finding out what they need from us, and then kicking TL up the arse, excuse my French, and making them do it.
Yeah, thank you, Fen. Claire, any thoughts on that?
So until you mentioned it just then, I didn't even realise that existed as a concept. So first of all, being very transparent about it and putting it out there so that the disabled students know that this is what we deserve and this is what we should be getting. And then again, no size fits all. So having conversations with individuals and making sure nobody falls through the gaps, and being really, like, you know, very proactive about reaching out to them, not waiting for them to contact us. And again, making sure the adequate training's been put in place, and making resources more accessible to you. Like I mentioned, recording lectures. And I know for a lot of disabled students, making it into a lecture hall at a certain time every week can be a massive challenge. And if you're not there for the lecture, you're then at a disadvantage anyway. So if we can record it, it makes it accessible to everybody, no matter what circumstance you are in on that day.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll stick with you, Claire, for another question. Students who have disclosed their disability at Trinity Laban, they're mostly hidden disabilities. How will you work to encourage those students to come forward and engage with the SU and its work?
I think by making it incredibly obvious about what we're doing, so they know what support is actually there, so that, because if they know what they can get, they're a lot more likely to take that up. And again, even just having resources around the buildings, like you were saying with hidden disabilities, a lot of those people also struggle to get a diagnosis. So making sure resources are available to everybody so they can get help no matter what stage they're at, and making it very obvious how they can do it, so they're not scrabbling around to find information.
Thank you. Fen?
Well, first of all, the SU offices and the SU space has to be accessible. A lot of people with hidden disabilities may not look like they can't do stairs, but obviously that's not always the case. There aren't clear directions in Braille on any signposting to get to the SU. And as far as I'm aware, we don't have hearing loops to direct towards the SU as well. The lighting in the Undercroft is pretty dark, and therefore lip reading could be difficult. So improving just basic levels of accessibility in the SU space itself could give the option, but also, why aren't we splashed around everywhere? Why aren't we on banners on Moodle? And why aren't TL showing off what wonderful things that we can do in the SU? We need to be showcased. There's so much we can do, and posters need to be put up. I know that's a heritage building issue, but posters can be put on top of other posters to avoid people being dodgy about blue tack. We need to get out the information that we are here, that we do want to help. I think the main issue is that people don't necessarily know that we're here.
That's a big issue, but thank you, Fen. Lovely, thank you both. Let's move on, please, to the candidate for diversity officer, and that's Congling.
Hi, yeah, it's Congling.
Congling, thank you. Please correct me, anyone and everyone, when I get your names wrong. I'm terrible.
It happens all the time, so you're all right.
Thank you. 3 minutes, starts now.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Congling, and I'm a first-year violinist, and I'm standing for diversity officer. although no one else is running, I thought it's still important that you get to know me and my ideas. So I thought I'd give a bit of background. I'm from a small village in the Midlands, which is not a great place to grow up queer and half Chinese. I don't pretend to fully understand everyone's struggles at Trinity when it comes to race. Having grown up in the UK, I understand I have a lot of privilege. However, from my experiences growing up in such a small town, I have experienced discrimination, and I will also always listen to other non-white people's opinions on how to improve Trinity Larvin. I would say about myself, I work great with others. I know quite a few of the other candidates, and I would love to work with them, such as the welfare officer and also the VP of events. So that leads me on to my next point. I have some quite groovy ideas for some diversity events. The first one being quite an obvious one, we need to do something for Black History Month. I'm not Black, so my ideas for that is I could collaborate with the Afro-Caribbean Society in order to really understand what that community wants. I am, however, part of the LGBT community, so I would work with the LGBT officer to create a Pride event, just a big social for all LGBT people to meet each other. Other ideas, I've put together a big calendar of diversity dates, but I'll just mention one more, which could be Chinese New Year. There are quite a few Chinese students at Trinity, and I feel this would be a great space for them to meet. Other things that I'd like to do would be update students on social media about the news, about movements in social justice, also give them book and movie recommendations, as we're often quite underrepresented in mainstream media. I'd also love to talk, this is an important one, I'd also love to talk with staff about how we could decolonise our curriculum. From my experiences in first year, there has been very little, in fact, I'd like to say no representation of BAME people in any of the academic courses. And I really think that this is something we need to tackle. And also educate more about.
Wrap it up, please.
Okay, educate more about the systemic oppression they faced. And yeah, thank you for listening. That's me done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So one of the things you said, which is quite interesting to me, you don't pretend to know everyone's struggles. However, as diversity officer, in a way, you are representing the voice of a student of any racial, ethnic, or cultural group and the discrimination they face. So how would you manage that workload?
So when I said that, it's a very kind of broad, like BAME, it covers a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. What I'm trying to say, I think, is that I don't want to go into it alone, not speaking with other BAME people, because as being half Asian, I do understand just some very basic fundamental things that white people don't understand. But I would just really seek to work with other BAME people. I've already been approached by some people doing a research topic on decolonising the curriculum. One of the people involved is the head of the Afro-Caribbean Society. So what I'm saying is that I would be very open to collaborating with them. I think it's important that it's not just me making all the calls.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on, please, to a candidate for international officer. And that's you, Jared. If you could unmute yourself, please.
Hi.
Hello, would you like
take it away.
to tell us in 3 minutes,
Yes.
please, why you are international officer?
My name is Jared Michaud. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from this country, which also makes sense because I'm running for international officer. I am a first-year master's student on the music education and performance course. I'm in the vocal department. I'm from northern Maine, which is in America, but right on the border of Canada. And then I lived in Jerusalem for a while. So I'm from a lot of different places. And yeah, I'm running for international officer because strangely, when I moved here, I was just confused about so many things. Actually, not strangely. Like, you know, you guys, for the music people, like crotchets and quavers, simple things, you know, the rest of the world does not call them that. And I was like, what is that? But also, you know, like making a bank account, that was difficult. Getting a job and people asking me for my national insurance number, and then I give them my NHS number, and then these people are laughing at me. I was like, I didn't know they were different things. Anyway, my point is that I felt kind of alone in all of this, and it was a bit sad. So I'm running for the international officer because I would like to offer more support. So that's kind of one side to incoming students. And I think that there's a lot more that can be done in building a community for those incoming students. I feel like I've made a lot of friends with other international students at the school, and that's been really, really helpful for me. But that was something that kind of happened organically and was less foundational at the beginning, and that would have been really great to have at the beginning. So that's kind of one side of the things I'm interested in. On the other side, I'm also interested in kind of fostering the diversity in our community, because we have lots and lots of international students from lots of different places, lots of different cultures, lots of different traditions. And I think that's something that personally I love to hear about other people. And also I love to share about my own culture and background and heritage and all these sorts of things. And so I think we need to create more space for that, not only actually for the international students, but for everyone at the school, because this is kind of just like about seeing other people as humans and understanding people. And this is about building a better community at Trinity Laban in general. And so, yeah, some of my ideas for international officer kind of includes, would be working with the welfare officer about kind of setting up a mentorship program, or just like a big little sibling program for various identity groups, but specifically for international officers. So just for new students being paired with a returning student who's also international to kind of be there to offer them advice. I also would love to host lots of different multicultural events, like specifically food nights, because I love food and there's so many different foods that people could be cooking. And so, yeah, just sharing foods and where people are from, also languages, doing like peer language learning, all those sorts of things. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's time. That's time. Thank you. Again, you're running unopposed, but I do have one question for you. You mentioned you want to build a community. And with the political situation and COVID, what it is, I think new students are going to face more unusual and extra challenges, maybe even than normal. So do you have any ideas about how we're going to build this community and welcome international students and foster a sense of belonging?
Yeah.
I understand we want to do it, but are there any concrete points you'd like to go about achieving that?
Yep. I think that it actually has, and maybe this is a hot take, I think it's less about the institution and more about individual relationships. And that's why I think the sort of big little sibling program is really important. And also, I think a lot of it just depends on me putting myself out there more. And making sure that my position is very visible to people as someone who can talk to people and be supportive of people. Because I think that that's, once you have an individual connection, that's when people can start to feel like they're a part of something larger and bigger. But also just being a person to build bridges between other people. So that means like, you know, setting up a Facebook group for international students at TL, like very early on, and starting like helping getting people connected very early. Yeah.
Lovely. All right. Thank you very much. So thank you. Next, just bear with me one moment because we're doing the LGBTQ plus officer, but Callum sadly is not feeling well and he can't be with us. However, he has sent me a statement he'd like me to read. In case you don't know who Callum is, I will share that. Can you see a picture of Callum? Wonderful. And here's Callum's statement that he sent me earlier. Just one moment. Okay. As LGBTQ plus officer, I want to ensure every individual feels welcomed, safe, valued, and seen at Trinity Laban. Every student has individual needs. I will work with each individual student who comes into contact with me to ensure a detailed and personal approach. I want Trinity Laban to become a progressive institution. The Free Sanitary Product campaign this year was a great and a real push in the right direction. Moving forward, I want to push for gender-neutral toilets in every campus. One recurring problem with gender-segregated facilities is that individuals being perceived by others to be in the wrong ones. Ever slipped out of your Ever slipped out of your flat to post that discreet biological substance labeled package into the post box? Well, there's nothing wrong with testing or discussions around sexual health. So keep putting those tests in the postal box. I want to work with Dean Street Clinic in Soho, who are already willing to team up and break stigmas, provide information, and test any student who wants to do so. The great thing about them is that they are completely free if you're under 21, and you can walk straight in and get a result within 20 minutes. The list of what I want to do is endless, and I will continue to push for change. Please vote for me. And that is Callum's prepared speech. If you have any questions for Callum, please send him a message on social media directly, and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer your questions. Okay, next, moving on. Vice President of Dance, please. So, is Adri here?
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes. Shall I start?
Yes, please do.
Hi, I'm Adri, a second-year dance undergrad, and I am running for Vice President of Dance. I am running because I think there is too much separation between the institution and the student body, and I would like to represent you in bridging the gap. I will listen carefully to the students who have any issues or topics that they would like to raise, and I will always have the best in I will always have the students' best interest at heart. I will push for a more relevant curriculum where we get more range in our technique classes, and I will organize extracurricular classes with disciplines that might be missing in our training and that might also interest students from other departments like musical theater, or we could even get some musicians involved. That would be great. I would also like to create a greater sense of community between the music and dance faculties. Firstly, by creating a platform which all students are automatically added to, and they will be able to post ideas for work or projects and ask for collaborations. And this would reduce the mass emails and would allow for greater cross-pollination at Trinity Laban. I would also like to create a greater sense of community between the student union and the dance faculty. The cottages are not very well known in the dance faculty, and they're not used to their full potential. And I want to look for ways of introducing the cottage into the Labaners experience. I will start by decorating the student union's office and making it a bit friendly. And I think people need a tour of the student union's facilities, so they actually are aware where they are and who they are for. And on the topic of facilities, I will like to push for more studios to be either built or hired, because we're in shortage. And another thing I would like to do is put microwaves in the cafeteria, allowing us to warm up the food without having to leave Laban, go to the cottages, warm up our food, walk back, get cold food, and then eat the food cold anyways. And I am just going to finish by saying that I am also running because the student union needs more representation from the dance community. In this election, we're 3 dance nominees out of 25. And so far, every single person I have heard from, I have things to say, and I would like to collaborate with all of you to make a more cohesive Trinity Laban, not just Trinity, not just Laban, but Trinity Laban, dance, music, and musical theatre, which is usually forgotten about. So yes.
Thank you very much. It's interesting what you said there about 3 out of 25. It's actually 22 now, but it's still 3. And it's we were hoping for more, but there we go. But can I ask you then, how do you think we can get dancers more involved in the SU, more students running in election? How can we rebalance what clearly seems out of balance at the moment?
Well, first of all, awareness. I was chatting with my classmates the other day, and they didn't know that there was an election going on. Student union is not really talked about in the dance faculty. So it is something that really needs to be brought up. There is not real sense of gathering. There's not a real space where we can gather. We have some bean bags and we have a little bar and there's the cafeteria, but there isn't a place for people to come together and sit down and get people in. So maybe making the cottages more well-known and more getting actually people into a place of community would get the dance department more involved.
I really liked your idea of doing a tour and introducing students to the cottage space. That's great. One more question for you, please. You mentioned extracurricular classes. I wonder, because it's been difficult to put them on this year with COVID and social distancing, but from the next academic year when you take over, we're hoping to revive that tradition, revamp them, do lots of extra classes. Do you know how you're going to secure leaders for these classes? Do you have contacts, and how will you promote them to the students?
Yes, I've actually got a big list somewhere.
Fantastic.
Of people that I'm contacting and promote them, not via email. I don't think that's a good idea. Dancers do not read their emails. Word of mouth, posters, and just word of mouth will get more way than an email will. So I think actually speaking about it and saying things.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. Lovely. Next, please, can we have the undergraduate dance officer? Anna, are you there?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Please give us your speech.
All right. Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a second-year BA Contemporary Dance student. Basically, after being at Laban for the past 2 years, I've seen that the student union has a lot of great resources, and things that students can take part in, but there's not much participation from the dancers. So I think there's a big opportunity to try and find a way to get the dancers more involved. This way we can build better connections between programs and find more of a sense of community across Trinity Laban. And I think a big part of the student union is being available to talk to students about their experiences and anything that comes up. And I'm not sure, especially with dance students, that they're aware that the student union can be like a first point of contact. We're encouraged to talk to our program leaders a lot, which is great that that communication is available to us, but sometimes there's things that could be a little intimidating to bring up to them that might be better discussed with people in the student union. Yeah, I think it's just important to feel like there's more of a sense of community and get everyone involved. So that's basically why I'm running.
Lovely, thank you very much. It sounds to me actually like you and Adri are in agreement, which is great because you're both running unopposed. So you may well be working together. Can I ask you, you mentioned community, how, and actually reaching out to that community. And I think it was Adri, or sorry, yourself, that said that emails don't work. And I wonder then, how is a better way to reach out to the dance community?
Yeah, so I'm thinking one of my ideas is within the BA dance program, usually each year group has a Facebook messenger like group chat. And I've noticed that if you send something in the group chat, a lot of people read it and respond. But for some reason, if it comes as an email, no one knows about it. So I think that would be a really great way to communicate with the dancers, because for some reason that's kind of been proven to work.
Great. And would there be a way to get into the different group chats for the different years, or are they like locked doors?
Yeah, so sometimes we'll get messages sent from someone who has a friend in first year or third year, and they'll just copy and paste like, hey, this person wanted to send a message, they're from third year or whatever. So I think as long as you have contacts within the different groups, then things can kind of be sent around and reach everyone.
That's great. Thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you.
The next, thank you. The next position is postgraduate dance officer, but we have no candidates, so we will move on. So if I could now do Vice Presidents of Music, please. And we will start with Peter.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please take the floor.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Fennick. I'm a first year MMUS student at Trinity Laban, and I'm a violist. Just a little bit about me. I'm running for the Vice President of Music for TLSU, and I'm also your current Vice President of Music for TLSU. So when I first came to Trinity Laban, from all throughout my undergrad, I was a string rep. In 2019, I was elected as the international officer. And then in the summer of 2019, I was elected as your vice president. And the reason I'm running again is quite simply, we can all agree that COVID kicked my plans to the curb. And I also feel it will be going against my morals to abandon ship, especially considering I've been trained so well under Eleanor Strutt. And then to see that we are going to get a fantastic new TLSU team next year. And I would like to be a part of that. I'm really going to talk about a few of my points. I won't talk about all of them, as some of them are just revamped from my last year's manifesto. First one is equality and diversity. As you can see just from this roster of candidates, that we don't fit into a box. Therefore, I don't think our education should fit into a box of 300 years of tradition, just because it is tradition. The next point is practice rooms and spaces. The student union is getting a revamp And I would like the Undercroft area to really be used for any kind of ensemble for anyone, whether you're just one person in a stand or, you know, an entire dectet filled with crazy instruments. I want it to be used by every music student at Trinity Laban. And also practice rooms, I feel we could have access to some more. And I've especially been told that certain members of the jazz department, keyboards, for example, are not being given access to fantastic pianos, and I think that's wrong, and I want to change that. Next, the next three sort of fit in together. My favorite one, repertoire requests. I think we all have our favorite pieces and works that we want to play, and I want to take it up to the right people and say that we want to do this and we want to perform it, and it's going to go well because this is what we want to do. Next, student-led ensembles. If they're not going to let us play it, then we'll just make our own groups and play it ourselves. And I want to bring this back. There was loads of these before COVID happened, and I want to ensure that we have the freedom and the space to do this. And the next one, which is connected to this, is I want more theatre-based projects. Considering we have such a fantastic vocal department, we have such wonderful talent at Laban, and of course, you can't forget about the wonderful MTs at Laurie Grove. I think it's only fair that we can all come together in all three of the buildings that we have and to perform, again, the rep that we want to do, or even just to create something completely new.
Peter, if you could wrap up.
Sure. It's been an absolute pleasure to be your vice president for the past year. And of course, I'm committed to do it again if you'll have me, but thank you.
Thank you. George.
Hello, can we hear me?
We can hear you. Please
Brilliant.
Go ahead, take the floor.
Thank you. Hey everyone, my name is George. I am a first year postgrad trombone, but I also did my undergrad here, so I've been at Trinity for 5 years now, which means I've probably experienced everything that the college can throw at me. So I'll just go through a couple of things that are big key points in my manifesto, and then I'll just talk about why I think I'm a good fit to be your next vice president of music. The first three kind of sit together. More projects, more rep classes, more guests. I take a lot of inspiration from the string department when I found out earlier today that they actually have resident artists. Why does no one else have this? This is what we need. It's quite simple, really. We need those big names that are going to come in regularly to keep us on our feet, but also excited about the guests that are coming in. We need more rep classes because, as I have been explaining on my post recently, we're not learning that bread and butter repertoire that we need to know by the time we leave college in context. We've just started doing them again, but I can count on my hands the amount of rep classes I've done in my 5 years at Trinity Laban. Next, we need more projects. It's simple. I don't need to dive into how many projects we need, but we need more of them. I know that COVID has put a bit of a halt on that this last year, but let's hit the ground running next year with at least 2 symphony orchestra projects per month, not 2 per year. It's just not on. And it makes us look like a bit of a shambles in comparison to our counterparts in central London. I want more storage. I think everyone has the right to put their instruments somewhere and not have to share it with other people. So I'd like to work with the president of the SU and increase locker space. It's important that everyone has a safe space to put their instrument overnight. I want more intercollegiate relationships. We have 3 incredible music colleges just a tube ride away, and yet we don't really work with them that much. I've had the real fortunate pleasure this year of forming a group where I've been able to work with other music college students, and it's been great. To find a way to do this more professionally and more conservatoire-wide would be incredible. And lastly, I want to improve the dynamic between senior members of staff and students. I think that we could have better relationships with them. I think there could be better communication. I know everyone has a different head of department and everyone has a different relationship with them. Nonetheless, I think it's important that there's sort of like a blanket way that all head of departments need to interact with their students so we all have the same experience, so that it's not a, oh, well, my head of department does this, oh, well, mine doesn't, but mine does this. You see what I mean? I'll just talk to you about why I think I'm the best fit for it. I've been in these positions. I have been in that office with those people who are saying that I have made a comment and, you know, they're not happy with it. but frankly, I'm not scared of having those conversations with the right people. I think it's important to have a voice and to speak up regardless of the outcome. It is important that I can speak openly on behalf of you, the students, and to have someone like myself who isn't afraid of doing that, I think could be incredibly beneficial. Because like I said, I've been there, I've done that. I have been in that position. I have been in your position. If you are having a hard time with a member of staff, I understand. I get it. So let's work together and improve it. I'll wrap up now.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks a lot for listening.
Lovely. Stay unmuted there, George, because you mentioned about storage and lockers more for everyone, I think was something along those lines for your words.
That's right.
But my question to you is, well, actually, the managing the lockers is probably one of the most annoying jobs that the VP of Music has to do, but also an important one. How will you ensure that all students have parity of access for lockers and instrument storage?
For the meantime, I think it's about fair distribution, because I understand currently there are not enough lockers to go round. So for friends who know each other, who perhaps play similar instruments of similar sizes, sharing and keeping the cost down is important for the time being. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that I think that everyone should have a safe space for their own instrument overnight. And I would like to work to get to a point where that is feasible, whether it happens at the start of the year or the end of the year, or if I hand that job over to the next VP after I leave Trinity Laban.
All right, Peter, any thoughts on that?
I agree. We are struggling for space, and right now the locker system is currently working on a first come first served basis. But I've been looking into it, and during my time as VP, I've done quite a few audits. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago, had a meeting with senior members of staff to try and get 30 new large lockers, which we feel will actually be able to fit the needs of all the people asking us for lockers and demanding their own safe space. So there is potential for this to be fixed a lot sooner than we are worrying about.
All right, thank you. Another question. So in the dance team in the past, there have been sort of weekly workshops that the SU runs for dancers. For the music faculty, it's a little bit trickier because we are all in multiple different departments, different instruments, different requirements. Do you have any idea for workshops that we could put on that were cross-department suitable for all musicians? Peter, let's start with you, please.
I think the simplest way to approach this is to narrow it down. For example, I was talking earlier about theatre-based projects. We have an incredible number of students who come to Trinity Laban with the ambition to work in a pit, be it for the opera, the ballet, or the musical theatre, or even just plays. So my first point for workshops would be to tackle those, get professional pit musicians in and around London to come in and really have a talk about what it's like living that life. And also I'd include TL alumni that have also gone into playing in the pits professionally, just to bring them in and just to get some idea of what the necessary steps are after we leave Trinity Laban to just make it and survive.
Thank you, Peter. George.
Cool. Yeah. So, a couple of years ago, there was a teacher in the brass faculty who started doing morning workshops every single morning for the brass students if they wanted to go. And it was quite a big inspiration actually for us to, really get in and get working as a group. I never understood why he couldn't open that out to everyone, because it was more of a breathing exercise kind of based class. So not only do I agree with everything that Pete said about having more musical theatre, opera, ballet, workshops and classes with professionals, but just these general musicianship classes, whether that's performance technique or stage anxiety, because I'm sure many of us suddenly get on stage and start freaking out a little bit. Having people like that coming in and just having across the spectrum workshops that are not tailored to anything as well, just that broad music blanket that everyone can come along to and all relate to in a way.
All right, lovely. Thank you very much, both. Can we move on, please, to MT officer? And we have just the one candidate. Natasha, are you there?
Hello.
Hello, take it away.
Hi, thank you. I'm Natasha or Tash, either is fine. And I'm running for musical theatre officer, unopposed. But I have been a student rep for the last 2 years. I started in 2018 on the foundation course for musical theatre. And one thing has stood out to me, like observing the politics and the goings on in the MT department, is that we are often not taken seriously as a department or as a student body. Our requests, parts of my manifesto, are issues that have been raised since I joined the department nearly three years ago, and this needs to change. As a student rep, I've already successfully petitioned for sexual consent classes to be rolled out across the curriculum, compulsory, which started this term. I've also liaised with the marketing team to promote more musical theatre content on the Trinity Laban main social pages, as well as help convey general worries of the students in meetings and providing results. As your musical theatre officer, I will focus on two things: communication and action. Communication through face-to-face student forums that encourage a personal connection with me, allowing students to voice their concerns, and creating MT-related articles that can be published on social media, aided by the marketing team. Action and solution for many overdue issues, such as insufficient and biased rehearsal space booking system that does not currently benefit the musical theatre department at all. And pushing for greater investment in mental health care for our student body. I will push for change. I am not scared, and I will be your spokesperson. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Can I ask you about being a student rep? So as the MT officer, you will sort of be a bit like the head rep for the MT department in a way. You'll certainly have extra gravitas, and you'll also have like the direct ear of management. You'll be able to go straight to management. I just wonder, is there a way that you can think of that works with the rep system more and the other reps that you can? Do you have any ideas about how you can work better as a group of reps that represent MT needs?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a student rep, I wasn't student rep for like the first 2 years. And I think there was a huge amount, once I became student rep, I think I realized how important it is for our student reps, especially, I don't know how it is across departments, to communicate what they have understood in meetings to the student body. Because a huge part of some of the issues that we face that keep getting repeated are things that have been addressed in meetings and they're not communicated down. I think I've done a lot of work as a student rep, just as a student rep. I just think that being MT officer, I definitely know I can organize and rally people a lot better. I definitely know I will be introducing to myself to every single class of MT without fail. Everyone needs to know who I am and know my face. That's also been some of the biggest problems that we've had in the past, is that we don't know who our officers are. We don't know who our student reps are. They often don't turn up to meetings. And I think that's because people don't understand how important they are. There have been things that student reps have communicated through SSLG meetings that have really made a difference. And I just think that needs to be communicated better. And if that means me going to every single class and standing there and telling them that they needed to talk to me and then they need to talk to their student reps, who I will make sure I know and have names of. But yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Natasha.
Thank you.
Undergraduate music officer next, please. And I'd like to start with Theo. Theodore, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic. Please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. If you would give us your speech, I'd be very grateful.
Yes. Good evening. I'm Theodore Karpinski. I am a second-year composition student and a rep in composition. I have decided to run because this is a stonking great conservatoire, but it could be even greater. So let's get together because we have a lot of work to do. First of all, we are currently not together, but separate. Not just due to COVID, we weren't particularly unified before either. We often feel like three separate institutions, with music, MT and dance not having much contact with each other for most of the year. This has to change. Therefore, I want to bring us together with a big increase in the number of social events taking place throughout the year, taking place in a wider variety of locations, including more at Laban. I would also facilitate the creation of more performance collaborations and concerts that involve students from every faculty. There would be more new works commissioned from Trinity Laban composers, as well as traditional repertoire. And there will be more opportunities for performers to play pieces by TL composers while making it count towards the assessments, a win-win for both composer and performer. We also aren't brought together often enough with industry professionals in masterclasses and networking events. So we need to increase the number of masterclass opportunities we all get in all departments. I would like these things I just mentioned to be in the new curriculum, but we should get going with these things this year as soon as possible. All the while, I want all of you to be in closer contact with those that run our conservatoire and to make the conservatoire more organized. We need regular meetings with the principals at least once a term and preferably more, and more Q&As with the ESC and your respective heads of department. And the emails need to be sent out more in advance and room bookings made easier to use and reduce the amount of rooms that are empty despite appearing to be booked. Everyone also always knows about Moodle, and I want to improve it so that it's actually a website we want to use and can use with ease. I hope you all have a great time and that you are never again subjected to the torture of Adobe Disconnect and more lockdowns and the online lessons. I would like all the events and lessons to be normal again and in person, and make sure we don't backslide on that unless we are legally forced to by the government. Let's make this coming year the year of togetherness, after the year of separation. Let's make it the best year ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Theodore. Benjamin, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, great. Please take it away.
I don't think mine will be quite as rousing as Theo's, but I'm just going to talk you through my manifesto points. I'm Ben, I'm a second year trombone player. My first point kind of is the cornerstone of what a student union should be. So being a student rep has given me access to being in meetings between staff and students. And too often the student voice just kind of goes unheard, especially this year's majors assessments. It's something I'm going to keep coming back to. But we were told that students should have been liaised with by heads of department. I know that in the woodwind brass percussion department, this did not happen. And it's things like that that kind of need to change. I kind of plan to tackle this by insisting that at every meeting that affects us, the appropriate member of the Students' Union is present and can talk to students, get their opinions, and make sure they're heard in meetings. My second point links nicely with the first, making sure that communication from staff members is clear. We're all aware that communication from college is not always as clear as it should be. Going back to major assessments, information came way too late, only a couple months before they were due in. And when it did come, it was not easy to understand. And accompanied with, like Theo says, a confusing Moodle page, getting any sense from the information was not simple. I'd love to work with students on this, kind of in a case-by-case, and consulting them on which modes of communication they find easiest to engage with. Thirdly, possibly most important, since the majority of us on the music course are doing performance degrees, is to ensure that post-COVID there are as many performance opportunities as possible. My plan was to kind of act as a middleman for this, ensure that performance spaces such as St Alf's Church in Greenwich, Blackheath Halls, the Chapel, Theatre Studio, Peacock Room, etc. have set aside plenty of time to make up for that time we've lost not being able to perform. And finally, the student union would not be successful if not all the members were working closely together to create a cohesive unit. I think working closely together with all the student experience officers will ensure that Trinity London can work well and create a safe and welcoming place for everyone. I'm really excited to be running to be the first ever undergrad music officer. Trinity is a great community, and if elected, I look forward to working with especially the dance and musical theatre officers, which has been a common theme today, to find ways to collaborate and listen to students and support them with whatever they need. Thanks.
Thank you, Ben. Something you both picked up on, and I'd like to ask you all here with your cameras on, a raise of hands if you think Moodle is crap. I mean, if you, yeah, okay, interesting. Great. Yes, I agree. And so is the room booking system. Right. I have a question. So you are going to be, one of you will be the inaugural post holder for this new position. So you'll be setting the bar. But I wonder, how can TLSU make sure that it communicates clearly and better with undergraduate music students? Can I start with you, Theodore, please?
Well, I think Trinity SU needs to probably rely less on email and a bit more on other social media. And also there should be posters all around, like some other people also for dance mentioned. These are kind of common sense things that should be more of. And yes, that we should diversify our events as well. We have these drinks in the courtyard of King Charles Court. However, I think we should have different events, not just drinking events, and maybe more events, as I said, at Laban as well, rather than, because I feel that most of the people coming over to these events are music students. But anyway, even the music students, there aren't enough coming.
Thank you, Theodore. Benjamin, any ideas on better communication, clearer communication from the SU?
I think communication-wise, Elle and the team currently have been really good at sending out emails. But as we've learnt today from the dance department, not everyone is always on top of that. And I think kind of need to use every way possible just to hit as many of the people as we can. So emails, social media, posters, everything. You know, like Niamh said, going up to them in the cafe and asking if they've heard, you know, about this event that's going on later or something like that. Just getting the word out there in every way possible.
Great, thank you, Benjamin. I believe we have a question from Ellie Congling.
Hi. Yeah, I was just going to ask, I know both Ben and Theo, and I was just going to ask how, obviously, whoever gets elected, would they be willing to, because obviously music is such a broad department, would they be willing to work together? Would they be willing to obviously combine ideas? Like, I don't know whether that makes sense, but just, I know obviously it's not kind of like a one-man show, both have great ideas. How would that then work, and how would they bring that to the table, I guess?
All right, thank you. Yes, Ben?
Yeah, so I obviously respect Theo's ideas, Moodle, room bookings. everyone's issues, you know. But I think I'm very classical in myself, and I know that I don't know much about the other courses, jazz composition, musical theatre, etc. The first thing I want to do, kind of my plan if I am elected, is kind of open my door to anyone from every course who wants to share a concern or an idea that they have about their course, that I can kind of take further or kind of liaise with them or other student union officers, and kind of get that sorted, because every student, you know, not just going to focus on the classical students, because that's who I am. I want to really make it broad, and ensure that every student is important and has their voice.
Thank you. And Theodore, any thoughts on that?
If I lose, then I will march to the Capitol and storm it.
I certainly hope not.
Of course, that's a joke. No, I will fully accept the result of my election and of all the other candidates for all the other positions, because we need to respect democracy and the rule of law, and we hope that more people will vote this time out than ever before as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, I will of course listen to everyone, including Ben, about all the ideas, because as a composer I have a lot of experience, and there hasn't really been many composers in the SC before, so I want to bring some new experience from that side. But obviously I will listen to everyone. I don't really know much about jazz or musical theatre, and maybe a bit more about something like piano, as I also play piano, so I had some involvement there in that department, and maybe, but whatever, I will listen to everyone, of course. Everyone has a say. I want to make the student union as open as possible, and also not just to listen to us, but also to have opportunities to talk to senior management like Haviland, Wiltshire and Anthony Brown as well, more than in the past.
Thank you. Thank you both. And if I can just add in there, I hope that any of you that do lose will still want to stay involved in what the SU does next year, because it's not just about those that are on the team. It's you know, you are welcome to get involved in any and all ways throughout the year, whether you're on the team or not. We'd love you to join us and help our work. Okay, so moving on, it's postgrad music officer, and our candidate Hannah Littlechild cannot be with us, but she has sent a recorded submission. So I'm going to share screen, and can you see Hannah's face? Yeah, okay. I wonder if you can hear this. Let's see. Can you hear it? No, you cannot hear that. How do we make you hear that?
Will, when you click share screen, you should have two boxes to tick, and one of them should be to optimize, like to share audio or something like that.
Hold on. So if I stop sharing.
You see there should be two boxes.
Ah, yes. I've never done that before, would you believe? Yeah. Thank you. Let's try again.
We can't hear.
Okay.
Good call, Pete.
You still couldn't hear, because I then couldn't see you either.
Is it very quiet?
It is quite quiet. Could you not hear anything at all?
I should, like, a bit.
You should be able to click on the thing that says to share audio.
I did.
Oh, okay. Sorry, ignore me then.
It says share sound optimized for video clip. I ticked both of those. Let's see, advanced. Oh my goodness. Well, I'll try one more time. See if I turn I've turned the volume up and everything. Because I can't see you now when I'm sharing. Just someone speak if you can't hear Hannah. Okay, let's try again. One more time.
Still nothing.
Well, we tried. Sorry, Hannah.
I think what we're hearing is it coming through your headphones. So maybe if you unplug your headphones, that might work.
Okay. We haven't got time to fix it because I appreciate it's already running late. Hannah is running unopposed, and I tell hello, can you hear me?
Well, we've got you back, but is there a possibility that we could maybe have Hannah's Hustings video posted to the SU Instagram so everyone's got access to it?
Exactly what I said when I broke up.
Oh, bro.
Thanks, Ben.
Also,
okay. Okay, we'll move on. And actually, we're moving on to the most important, the position that we haven't done yet, President. Let's see, what's the order? So this is going to be annoying. Oh. Hello. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my internet tonight. It's terrible. Okay, what I was saying was, if you can hear me, we have 2 recorded submissions, which is annoying because they're not working right now. So I have a submission from Lydia and Sarah, but because of the sound problems, we're going to sadly have to skip them. And I will also put them up on the Instagram. But we do have Daisy. Hello.
Hello. Can everyone hear me okay? Great.
All right, take it away.
Brilliant. Hello, my name is Daisy. I am currently in my 3rd year of undergraduate contemporary dance. And first of all, I just wanted to say it's so lovely to hear from all the other candidates. I can't wait to hopefully work with any of you. That would be really amazing. And I'm running for president because I'm just so eager to push Laban as the really diverse and I think student-driven school that it is. I have so much enthusiasm for our school, and I just want to use all of my experience of the past 3 years to make the best possible environment and experience for people in the school. So graduating from Trinity at such a sort of trying time as a dance artist, my ambition is to just bring forward, I think, the determination that we have all shown over the past year to just move forward into better times. And I really want to take care of our student body and to connect us back as a community. And I want to make Trinity Laban the progressive place that it can and should be. So I want to just make everybody's experience as positive and inclusive as possible. So my priorities, if elected, are number 1, I want to get young artists into Laban. I know that there can feel like a really great divide between
Are we on camera?
Sorry. I know there can feel like such a massive divide between education and the real world or the real industry. So I want to encourage people to bridge the gap and help widen their individual reach through classes, workshops. And I want to do that by bringing in current artists and also alumni, because we all want a potential job when we graduate, and coming back would be so fun, I think, for so many alumni, and I think they would really enjoy that. Number 2, I think there should be a shift in focus on restoring the social and chilled out spaces in our school. I want to renew our sense of community and particularly rest at Laban that's just been completely missing during the pandemic. And I think providing comfortable spaces for the student body that feel truly for you or us is really the place to start. Number 3, I'd like to provide a lecture series that supports people in their futures. So if you want to know the logistics of freelancing, joining the professional world, getting an agent, how you write your CV, or the big scariest thing ever of how do your taxes work, I really, really, really want to provide spaces for students and alumni to feel set up by this support. And finally, I just want to help Laban be the creative space that students can use and mold to what they want. I want to make just as many of the things that you want to see at our school a reality, be that societies, workshops, events, sharings, anything. And as president, I will be open and available to suggestions with clear and designated office hours and multiple avenues to contact myself and the whole student union team so that you feel most comfortable approaching any situation at all. So just to finally say, I think that Trinity Laban is the most wonderful collection of individuals and artists, and I want to support each person's time and journey through the school. And as president, my work will be driven exclusively by you and for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy. Stephen.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes. The floor is yours.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. My name's Stephen Stanley. I'm a first-year postgrad trombonist, and I'm hoping to be your next president. I ran for this role because my real drive is to go the extra mile to help people. Case in point, after graduating in 2019 from Sheffield University, I spent a large portion of 2020 delivering food parcels to those in my home community of Gloucestershire who could not go out and get food for themselves. And I'm really keen to embrace that community spirit and try and introduce that here. My core values are really easy to remember because they spell out Steve. So just remember that acronym: solidarity, teamwork, enthusiasm, vision, and excellence. My first priority will be to work with the academic vice presidents and officers to provide more opportunities for collaboration between the 3 Trinity Laban faculties and ensure that all faculties benefit equally. Socially, I want to either bring back the summer ball or introduce a winter ball as the highlight of the social calendar for all students. And I hope I can get the support from the future vice president of events. Secondly, I really want to tackle the issues that don't fit into the traditional committee roles. For example, I want to enter into discussions with campus living villages, as I know there are lots of concerns that have been raised about Macmillan Student Village. The biggest issue this year, for example, is that during term 2, tenants were charged full rent fees, even though most students could not use the accommodation. As individual students can't do much, traditionally the landlord holds all the power. But as a student body, we can make a difference, and I believe this is a course truly worth fighting for. Finally, I have 4 policies which should help us as students and as an institution reduce our carbon footprint and better integrate with the boroughs of Greenwich and Lewisham into the bargain. 1, to encourage local businesses to introduce a student discount. We get cheaper goods and services, they get more customers. It's a win-win. 2, seize the opportunity provided by the brand new Cycleway 4, promote that by improving bike storage facilities at all Trinity Laban sites and introducing a bike rental scheme if possible. 3, transport fare reductions. The student oyster doesn't really go far enough. The benefits only apply to travel cards and not individual journeys, which is not helpful for most of us. And fourthly, to reduce, reuse and recycle, in particular to provide a way for students to donate kitchenware, bedding and so on that they no longer need and which would otherwise go to landfill. These items would then be available for all students, although of course new students would get priority. I'm really looking forward to working with you and for the local community. This has a special place in my heart because I grew up here for the first 10 years of my life. I spent most of my school holidays here in New Cross. So I'm really keen that Trinity Laban and the local community have this good working relationship.
Stephen, if you
remember, if you vote yes, if you vote yes to Stephen S next week, I promise you'll get Steve. Remember that solidarity, teamwork, enthusiasm, vision, and excellence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. And again, apologies that Lydia and Sarah can't be here. They're both third-year MTs and they have been busy with their shows. And I promise I will put their recorded videos up on Instagram. And sorry that for technical difficulties, I'm not able to play them on my computer. Now, a couple of questions for you both. How do you plan to manage your time when you may have meetings during the day from 9 to 5 and also an event in the evening for the SU? So, Stephen, can I start with you on that one?
Well, that's a great question because I can't function without a timetable a lot of the time. I really enjoy planning things out day to day, having a set schedule. This is one of my other policies that is on my manifesto, but didn't obviously have time to mention in my speech, that I will be having regular meet your president surgeries, as they call them, like a local MP would. So absolutely making that accessible and making sure that, yes, that I've scheduled the right hours in the day, that everyone has a chance to be heard.
Great. Thank you, Stephen.
Effectively.
Hi. Well, there's nothing that I love more than a to-do list. And as I mentioned, I think by sort of sustainably setting myself out with regular office hours and multiple means of contacting myself, that I think I want to spread out my time to every student as equally as possible so that I can give my full attention and energy to things. And I think also just having studied in the way that I know in particular our dance faculty is set up for the past 3 years, the sort of switch between daytime and being organizational or perhaps more logistically or office focused is an easy transition that I find to make then into something a bit more fun and physical and energetic. And so I think I would feel more than happy to switch between and really keep that as a sustainable practice throughout the year rather than sort of making myself really, really busy in short bursts so that I'm not useful to anybody.
Thank you. Sticking with you, Daisy, I wonder, how would you handle a vice president or officer not fulfilling their role while you were in position as president?
I mean, I think my first port of call would be to go to them and ask if everything was all right, if there was anything that I could do to support them in that position. I think I have all faith in anybody that becomes part of their student union team, and I want it to work as nicely as possible. And I think just communication is the first port of call always. I want to know if there's something that I'm not doing, if there's something that's maybe been misunderstood, just anything at all that's becoming overwhelming, will that be as a role or for them personally. So I think just chatting it through and seeing what I can do to support them is the most important thing.
Thank you, Daisy. And Stephen?
Well, it's reassuring to see that Daisy and I are of one mind, because having been in board meetings essentially from the age of 3, can you believe it? You learn very early on that as a chairman, your job is to make sure that every voice is heard equally and given as much weight as possible. So yes, communication will be the key. Absolutely, trying to make sure where the problems are, trying to see what can be done to alleviate stress, and seeing what can be done through teamwork.
Great, thank you, Stephen. In the aftermath of COVID-19, when a lot of the SU's operations have moved online for the last 6 months to a year, if restrictions continue to ease, where do you plan to base yourself? In KCC, in Laban, or working from home, or AN other? Stephen, start with you.
Of course. I would like to have it so that I had a certain number of days in either from working from home at Laban or in King Charles Court, so that there would be specific office days for specific people to feel more comfortable dropping in. I think that's the best way of doing it, because if you restrict yourself to one venue, then yes, you have that centralization, but you also had people feeling that they've got to make more, certain people feeling that they've got to make more of an effort just to come see you. And I really don't want that to be the case.
Thank you. Daisy.
Once again, Stephen, we are matched. I think I would divide myself pretty equally between KCC and Laban. And I don't know if there is a space at Laurie Grove, but I would love to spend time there as well. I think from my experience, in the dance faculty, much like Adri said earlier, I can't access the cottages. I don't know what it's like in there. I don't know why I would go there. And so I think if I can just begin to make a reason as to why people would come in there and feel welcome to be there, that's the best thing that I could do. So I'd really love, as Steve said, equally, to split my time between everybody equally, so that I'm a friendly and approachable face to everybody, and I'm supporting people as close to home as possible.
Thank you, Daisy. Now I have a question from Peter. Please, Peter, ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is coming from someone currently on the SU now. This is coming from me, but this is the hat that I'm currently wearing. My question to both of you is, why were you both hesitant in applying for the role when the first email went out?
Stephen.
I was wondering when someone would ask that question, because yes, I hung back, and that was because I was weighing up the pros and cons. In my case, it was because that I would be having to suspend my studies for a year and then resume them, and I wanted to make sure that that was feasible before planning on, without consequence. I really wanted to make sure that what I was making the right decision, the right call at the right time.
I was really just questioning whether I was going to be the right person for this. I know that in the past that there's been struggles between the union and the students in terms of not being able to fulfill what you set out to do, or not being available in the right ways. And I just wanted to make sure within myself that I was ready to take on a position in this way, and that I was going to be fully dedicated, and that I had something of worth that I felt that I could give. But yeah, that was my main thing, and I took it as a sign that things reopened, that it really was for me.
Great, thank you both. Natasha, do you have a question?
Hello. This is for both of you, I guess. I was just wondering how you guys plan to present yourselves as presidents. I know we've had Elle, who's been a really strong and hardball, getting things done and stuff. So I just think that especially for the MT department, I know that we're really keen to have a president that's going to get stuff done, and that isn't afraid of speaking out, especially against TL, because I know that that's something that has been a fear of with past presidents. But well, I can't speak for past presidents, but yeah, I was just wondering how you guys feel about making bold choices and speaking out against our own institution.
Daisy, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think that's a really brilliant question. I think firstly, of how I want to present myself, it's just with energy. I think energy towards wherever you want me to direct it, I'm more than happy to. And as sort of an example of speaking out against TL, literally just yesterday, we received an email about a job opportunity, and I was really concerned about it being specifically designated for a male identifying dance student. And so I emailed and I asked for clarification and justification as to why that was, because for myself, having read through their sort of requirements, I didn't see at all a reason as to why that had to be the case. So I just immediately was like, well, there's somebody to contact, so I will contact. And they sent me back a really amazing response. I had a really lovely communication with them about it. And I expressed my concerns. I suggested ways that we could potentially do things differently in the future. And yeah, I think that's probably the best example I can give of who I want to be as president.
Thanks, Daisy. And Stephen?
Yeah, so I really want to be just the person that people feel comfortable with coming to me with anything that's on their mind. As for opposing Trinity Laban, if a president doesn't oppose Trinity Laban, then there is no point having a president. The student union should exist to serve the students and all the faculties. They need to have that mediation. There needs to be that communication, and sometimes that means having to go against the status quo.
Thank you. George?
Thanks. Just a quick question, and if you could be completely frank and honest, because it's based on my own experience in my 5 years and having had 4 SU presidents in that time. I will not name names because that wouldn't be fair, but in one of my years here at Trinity Laban, there was a president whom we have discovered that we could not trust entirely, who left the SU in a state in many different ways, which I think led to an overall lack of trust in the student union's ability to do its job, because the person in the big chair was not being honest with the staff and he wasn't being honest with us. Why can we trust you?
Stephen, let's start with you, please.
I like to believe I'm a plain speaking person, that you can take what I say at face value and believe me. But I also pride myself on taking key notes regularly, and any decision that I make would absolutely be backed up. There would be paperwork confirming any decision that I make. And I would want to make that as accessible as possible so that people can hold me to account.
Lovely. Thank you, Daisy.
Yeah, I think my main point would be that I stand to gain absolutely nothing from going against the student body. And I think I was a student at the same time as you, George, when I think the person that you may be referring to happened. And to see the sort of subsequent damage to the student union was really hard, because it was something that I always really wanted and was enthusiastic about to go to as a body. So I think, in a similar way to Stephen, to hold myself accountable to everything, to the students more than anything, and in any shape or form that I could do that and make that transparent to people is most important to me. But really, I stand to gain nothing, and I've seen, one, the damage, and also I have no interest in inflicting damage upon the student body. I have so much love for the school and everything that it creates, and I would never want to go against that.
Thank you. Donal, do you have a question for us?
I do. So how can we guarantee that you won't favour one faculty over the other? So for Stephen, for you, it would be favouring music, and then for Daisy, it would be favouring dance.
Daisy.
Well, I think I've knowingly gone into this that it's not just about dance, and I can acknowledge that my bias immediately, purely because of my experience, goes to dance. I know what we're missing, I know what we like, I know how we work. I have so much just experience and knowledge of that. But immediately from the get-go, I wrote all my thoughts of my manifesto, and then immediately thought, but how about music? But how does that affect musical theatre? Even things down to the language that I'm using. Does that favour dance? Yes or no? And I think already that I've made conscious effort to move away from that is a good sign. And I've gone into this with eyes wide open that I am representing and supporting everybody at the school, and I want everybody to be heard equally.
Thank you, Daisy. Stephen.
Well, I know my cognitive bias will be towards music, and I am doing everything I can to educate myself about how each of the different faculties does things in their different way. This evening has been wonderful in that regard, because learning, for example, that the dance students tend not to receive emails as clearly as they do social media posts, So that's really crucial and will be crucial to moving forward in communication. Absolutely, I think having the office hours split between the faculties as evenly as I can will also help make sure that that doesn't happen. And if you've read my manifesto and from my speech earlier, you'll notice that I said that each faculty would have equal weight for the collaborations. And my other policies have always been geared towards what would be best for the entire student body, not just a department or a faculty or a group.
Thank you. Lovely. I think we'll close there, but I just have one final question. And if you can just give me the first thing that comes to your mind and keep it brief. But we'll start with you, Stephen. Why do you think TLSU is important?
Because the students deserve to be heard. They deserve to be represented. And it needs to ensure that everyone is on the same page at all times where possible. Sometimes there will be breaks in communication, but this needs to be followed up as soon as possible and just make sure that everyone knows what's going on.
Thank you. And Daisy, why do you think TLSU is important?
I think it's the backbone. I think it's the place to go. And I think it's the place that even if you can't go to them, they come to you. And I think that's the most important thing.
Fantastic. Well, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, apologies for the technical difficulties at the beginning and then mine later on. And also apologies for this crazy hair that I'm wearing. I was on stage about 20 minutes before I joined the Zoom call performing. So there we go. It's crazy. And also just to say that anyone that does get elected onto the team next year, I am the SU administrator. So I am here to help you and support you and make your ideas a reality as well. And that may well stop what was mentioned earlier about maybe an inconsistent or a blip year. Having an administrator like myself may help stop that from happening in the future and ensure continuity from year to year, and that TLSU is always growing and improving and trying to do better for the students. So thank you very much, everyone. And don't forget to vote when polls open next week. And that's it. Any questions from anyone before we close? Nope. Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to leave this on because I just want to have a word with Clare, who has been recording this for us. But if you could all please leave the Zoom now, that would be wonderful. Thanks a lot. Bye.